Let's see. Somebody's on. Woo woo. Jesse, are you on? Jesse, are we going? Woo woo. All right. Okay, woo woo. I think we're rolling. Woo woo. That's like a big deal when we're rolling. All right. Welcome to the Lunchbox Half Hour. We're blue collar. We do the dirty work. We get down in the dirt, and our favorite tool is a shovel. Woo woo. Anyway, today we were going to talk about cold plunges and saunas, and just like how I have used cold plunges and saunas for my training. So I think the first time I used saunas for training, I actually had never really gone, I had no urge to get all hot before. But when I signed up to do Badwater in Death Valley, so that's in the desert in Death Valley in the summer, and it's like 120 degrees. Like, it's hot. And so one of the things they said was like to train, to get used to being in the sauna, to get used to the heat, And so I remember I was going in the sauna, and I would see people in there like with their eyes closed, and they're meditating, and like trying to get quiet in their brain. And then I'd look at them, and because I'm kind of competitive at this stuff, and I would say, "Hey, dude, what's your record?" And I'd try and see how long the longest guy had ever gone. And so that's how I got started in the sauna. I needed like a little competition to get me juiced up to do the sauna. But I would get in there like 6 days a week before I went to Badwater the first time, and just to get used to that heat. And I remember the first time I went, I was pacing a guy. I was pacing my buddy Dan, and and I remember like I'd been in the sauna for like a month, like probably 5 to 6 days a week, going in there for, I don't know, 20 minutes or so back then. But I remember when I went out to the Death Valley, and I'm out there on the pavement, and the sun's coming down, and I'm pacing him. And all of a sudden he looks at me and he goes, "Bill, get in the van." And I said, "Why, Dan?" He says, "Because you're not talking." And the rule in Badwater, like if your pacer has to go to the hospital, like they have something, heat stroke or whatever, some sort of heat emergency, you have to go with them to the hospital. That's what the rule used to be. I don't know what it is now, if it's still that. But you would have to go with them to the hospital to make sure they were okay. In order, and then the guy, the pacer has to come back in the race so that you can continue racing. So that's kind of how I got started in the sauna. What I basically learned though, that first year though, even though I was in the sauna, it's different than being in the desert, It's different than being in the desert and moving and being on pavement. Sitting on your butt in the sauna is not the same as being in Death Valley and moving along at a slow jog or a brisk walk, That was one thing I learned, was that you gotta like move around too. So nowadays, when the last times I've gone to Death Valley to do something, I always try and get down there a week, 10 days, maybe 10 days ahead of time. And even though I'm going in the sauna, I'm putting a lot of time in the sauna, like 5, 6 days a week in the sauna. And then I would still go down to Death Valley early so I could get used to being out there on that pavement and pulling the what we were doing for training when I've been doing the one where I've been trying to get across, solo self-contained, where you're pulling a cart with all your survival gear and your water and food. It weighs like between 200 and 250 pounds, and you're trying to pull that across Death Valley in the summer. In August, we normally do it, and it's been like really, the summers nowadays are really hot. I kind of like it, except for it keeps making me throw up out there. Other than that, I like it. But the sauna is like it's a major thing. Okay, so here's the question. How does alternating between hot sauna and cold plunges help athletes recover faster from hard workouts? Okay, there's a good question too. So I think the cold is supposed to like be what brings down. I used to take like not ice baths, but just fill my tub when I was running, doing a lot of ultras and doing a lot of running. I would put my tub, I would make it really cold, cold up to whatever. I'd pour ice in it and sit in it for 20 minutes or so to bring the swelling down to my legs. I think that's huge. The heat, I don't really know a lot about the heat part of things. It gets the blood flowing, I guess, is what you do. I mostly go in the I go in the sauna, the hot and the cold. I do it for two reasons. I do it because I have a race coming up where I'm going to be hot or cold, and that's what I'm going to do. And actually the cold, what I've done, because I don't have access really to a cold plunge, the only cold plunge I have is this pool at my apartment complex in the winter. It gets like 50 degrees. It's pretty damn cold, but I'd get in it for 5 to 10 minutes in the winter to get used to that cold. And that was for swimming in San Francisco Bay, So I've used like cold, because everything I do is either hot or cold pretty much. Anything in the middle is kind of boring. So I like hot or really cold, or really high or really low. That low would be the Grand Canyon. I've been up and down that thing like 7 times before. But anyway, yeah, I think the idea where I really like the sauna and being cold is more for shocking my system, for my brain. It really helps your brain. So when I jump in, and I'll go take a cold shower first, then jump in the sauna for like 20 to 30 minutes, and then jump back in a cold afterwards, and you feel like $1,000,000. I think they got all this science behind it now. I think you're just shocking your system. And when you put your system into survival mode, like you get really hot or really cold, you're in the moment. You are so in the moment when you're like in that survival mode, and you don't think about your bills. You don't think about your problems. You just think, man, I got to survive this sauna. I got to survive this cold swim in San Francisco Bay. You get in that cold, you're kind of in that, I think it's like a survival mode you get in that puts you right in the present moment. And it's the same time it's training you. I really, really enjoy that stuff, and I can overdo it. I definitely have, to where, I'm swimming in the bay too long and it's too cold, and you get out and you're like just happy to be alive. Okay, here's a question. Do you see a connection between saunas and endurance performance, like lung capacity, VO2 max, heart rate? I don't know, man. That's a good question. My heart still works. One thing, I've been in the sauna so long that I've gotten out of there and like my heart's done a few funny things, but I stayed alive, so it made me tougher. It starts beating a little quick, I think because it got baked a little bit, But I think like I said, when I'm doing hot, it's because I'm going to the desert And if I'm doing cold, which is in San Francisco Bay, or, or like in the past, like I said, I've done some ice baths, but it's really usually to prepare me for a race, but I'll tell you one thing, makes you freaking mentally tough when you push yourself in the heat or you push yourself in the cold. All that keeps making you tough. I remember Tony Robbins said this, you got your circle, he drew this really nice looking circle, looks better than this, and then he would say your comfort zone, this is where your comfort zone is right there. And if you push outside that comfort zone with anything, it makes the whole circle grow. And I always really like that. So if I can go up there and sit in that sauna and push myself till I'm really uncomfortable, and then I go out of the sauna, then I'm figuring like that's making me tough in other areas of my life too. And the same with when I'm in the bay and I swim for an hour. I did my record this year for cold swimming, an hour at like 50 degrees. And I came out and it was like, whoa, that was cold. And then it's hard to make it to the sauna. You're kind of walking really slow because you're sort of frozen still. But I love all that, I love the challenge of it. And I'll tell you, like when I talk with people, when you're in the sauna or in San Francisco Bay, where we normally talk afterwards in the sauna, but it's like a happy place. I mean, it just is, because you're pushing your body, you're pushing your comfort zone. And whenever we do that, I think it makes us happy, man. It definitely makes me happy. I love it. I love going over there and hanging out in the sauna and seeing how long I can go. And not just because I have issues, because it's good for you. But anyway, or in San Francisco Bay, I love the challenge of swimming in that cold water, man. It's like so incredibly crazy, I just love it, But anyway, yeah, so let's see, what else? What about these persistence and not quitting can be learned from enduring cold and heat and cold stress? So what can be learned about not quitting? It's like you push it in there a little bit, you're always pushing it, we have safety too. I'm the safety monitor kind of. I say, dude, if you're going to push it, you guys make sure you got 2 steps and a dive for the door. Don't push it longer than that. Otherwise the cleaning crew is going to find you in the morning. Anyway, you can tell I have a lot of fun with it. Woo woo. But I think for the mind, it is so powerful for the mind, the hot and the cold, both the extremes, just pushing those. I think it keeps you like in the moment, and it really puts your life in context. So if you get yourself really uncomfortable, all of a sudden thinking about a certain bill and this and that seems stupid, because here I am, like this heat is so incredible, that I'm so uncomfortable, and you get in that survival mode in the sauna, and you feel so good when you get out, and then you jump in the cold shower and you get that shock, where you're shocking the body, the hot and the cold. I just love it all, So does anybody else have anything they want to say about being in a sauna or a cold plunge? Or I've never been in a real cold plunge, only like in the pool when it's like 50 degrees, which is still pretty good. How often should someone realistically do saunas or cold plunges to get results? I think as much as you can. I mean, I think you got to be careful. Like if you're doing training and you got a big workout scheduled. I mean, because if you push it in the sauna, or I guess the same in the cold plunge, it's going to use energy. And it's going to slow down your workout, So I try and do it. I like doing it at the end of the day. I like doing I do my morning routine. I do whatever my workout is. And then I talk to my life coach. And then I do, and do videos. And then I go to the gym and close out the day in the sauna and cold shower, And I just think it's like, I think it makes you mentally tough. I'm not sure how good it is for like running. Right now I'm starting to run more. And so I don't know how good it is for that. I think it does, if you're doing a cold plunge, it definitely brings the swelling down. But for me, the main benefit is either if I'm going to Death Valley, it's for the mind, for the body, and then for just keeping me in the moment in life, and realizing what's important. It's for that. That's the bay. The bay. When I go to the bay and I swim in the South End Club, the people there, they don't age, man. I'm telling you. I didn't swim for 8 years. I was so burned out on swimming when I went for my last English Channel attempt. I'd made I swam for 20 miles the year before, and then I swam almost 12 hours of swimming, I believe. And then the next year I swam all the way through the winter, and then and I didn't get to swim. It was too rough when I went over the channel. Every day was just that I was supposed to swim was terrible conditions. I never even could get out. And so then I was just so burned out. I took 8 years off and I started swimming again. But when I went back to the club, the South End Club, I'm starting to look around at people. I'm going Jesus, they haven't even hardly aged. Everybody looked about the same. I go wow, that's great. Except a few people had died. But I'm sure that's not because of the cold water. But a few had died. They were older. But anyway, but everybody else was looking good. Or it's that cold, literally, it almost seemed like it was some sort of, what are those things where you drink out of it? You drink and it's like the magic formula to keep you alive forever. It was that kind of stuff, like some sort of an eternity fountain in the bay, But yeah, so I love it. I love the extremes. I love the hot. I love the cold. I love them both. I love them for my mind. I love when I'm training for them. I miss, I didn't do anything hot this year. I didn't go to Death Valley and try and pull my card or anything. I freaking miss it, man. I miss, we go out there and we're pulling our tire. Me and my buddy Greg were pulling our tire in the middle of the day in Laughlin, Nevada, and it's in the sun, it's 140 degrees, and we're out there pulling our tire. Do you think we're in the moment? You think I'm in the moment when I'm doing that? Heck yeah, I am. I ain't thinking about any bills, any problems, nothing. I'm flat out in the moment. So I think, like I said, I can't say enough good stuff about the hot sauna and the cold plunge for physical and mental, for getting you in shape, for getting used to the cold, for swimming, or even when I went to when I've gone to Arrowhead and it's been minus 50 out there twice, and many times it's below zero. I've tried 12 times, I haven't made it. It's a 135-mile run where you pull a 40-pound sled with your survival gear, 135 miles. I've made it 98. I haven't made it 100. But, it's so cold out there. It's unbelievable in the middle of the night. I mean, it's crazy cold. We do the zombie walk, but I was just going in I was trying to think, how can I get used to this cold? I can't leave from 60 degrees, 70 degrees Santa Rosa at the time and go out to International Falls where it's minus 30, minus 40 degrees. It was too big of a shock to the system. So then I got a guy who had a meat locker in the middle of a field, and I would rent his meat. I don't know if I wasn't renting the meat locker, but I was renting a little space for a stationary bike so I could get in that and ride and just kind of get used to breathing in that cold air, feeling that cold air. I'd be a little underdressed, so I had to keep moving, But just the more if you're going to do something in the cold, you got to get used to it. If you're going to do something in the heat, you got to get used to it. You just can't show up out there or you'll get knocked on your ass because you'll be in shock, Like I said, my buddy Danny, when I went out there the first time to Badwater, I was supposed to pace him, and I can get in and out of the van and everything. And I got all nauseous when I got out there. I couldn't believe it. I was ready to throw up. And so he goes, "Bradley, get in the van." And I said, "Why?" He goes, "'Cause you're quiet and you're never quiet." He knew I wasn't feeling good. So anyway, but now, like I said, I try to get out there and move ahead of time. I try and, we've done it's like 7 to 10 days ahead of time before I do anything in Death Valley. I go to Laughlin, Nevada. It's a little cheaper, to go. You can stay in a casino there, and it's almost as hot as Death Valley. And man, it's hot. And they got some great roads out there. I remember I'm going down their little strip, and I'm running down there and it's 120 degrees or 130. And I just love it, man. But anyway, yeah, so any other questions about, I've kind of been all over the place. Any other questions about, okay, here's a question. If you had to pick only one sauna or cold plunge, which would you never give up and why? Well, I love the sauna the most. I mean, I do, if I had a cold plunge that worked all the time, I'd probably like that. But I don't even I don't take hot showers, just so you know. I only take cold showers. And it was for, to get used to the cold water for swimming the English Channel. And then I realized, I really like this, man. It wakes you up, it wakes you up. It just gets you going. And so everything I do is cold or hot. I just don't even do the middle. I'm like, I love that sauna, and I love, because our sauna is hot, man. And so I like that. Yeah, the sauna is easier to get into and do it. If I had a cold plunge, maybe I'd like that equally. I don't know, but I like San Francisco Bay, and I love jumping in there in the winter, and 50 degrees is my record, and I swam an hour. Record. What goes through your mind in the first 60 seconds of an ice plunge or jumping in the bay? What I think to myself is, you get this initial cold shock. So there's going to be a cold shock that you're going to get where your body just goes like this. Now, I used to start swimming right away, like just trying to warm myself up. And now I kind of do it where I go out I'll wade out in San Francisco Bay in the aquatic park, and then I'll go down and dip my head, go underwater, dip my head, and kind of get used to that cold shock first before I start. I just like doing it that way. I like trying to get control of that cold and getting relaxed in that cold before I start swimming, because I used to just start swimming right away, which takes about 5 minutes or so. Usually like 5 minutes. After 5 minutes, you don't feel like you're gonna die. That's why I love it. Woo woo, so extreme, man. Don't think about bills at all when I'm swimming for that 5 minutes, like to warm up, And you don't really warm up in the bay. I don't know what we kind of numb up is what I think it is. You just get numb, And but it's God, I love all that stuff, man. It makes me want to go jump in right now. It's just, you're in the moment, you're challenging yourself, you're pushing yourself. Other things don't seem as tough. You're definitely bringing up your mental toughness if you jump in saunas and cold and push it a little bit, you know what I mean? And push it, and, not to where you pass out. I've passed out before, but don't do that. I only did it because I was setting a record. But don't pass out. But it's good to get in there and push yourself in the cold and the hot. I just love it, man. That's what we talk about, is like, I love talking. And the guys at my club are like some really good athletes too, that are also really like the sauna. So there's something to it, What are the biggest mistakes people make when starting out with hot-cold exposure? Biggest mistakes? I don't think there is any. You got to be careful not to pass out. That is true. I passed out a long time ago, but it was a long story. But I go in the cold shower afterwards, and there was a kink in the hose. And I had to stand up to get the kink, and I unkinked it. And then, but I'd been in the sauna so long that I like got dizzy and passed out. But I was in the handicap shower, so I had rubber on the floor. And somebody comes running and go, "You okay, Bradley?" I go, "Hell yeah, I was just getting a little nap." but I don't recommend that. Anyway, yeah, now I check the hose, make sure it's not kinked, you know. But I think you don't want to overdo it that far. I've had, you know, there's been people taken out, you know, in the club with a stretcher, you know. Of course, you know, you get pushed out in a stretcher and I'm around, I'm like bumping you 5. Good job, man. Way to push it. But I don't recommend that. Okay, here's another question. It is better to sauna first and then cold plunge. I jump in the cold first. I just jump in a cold shower first I try and get in for, you know, 2 to 5 minutes. If I could do 5, if I have time to do 5 minutes, and then get myself really cold and then go into the sauna. And then I like finishing with the cold. And I'm telling you, I feel like a different person than when I walked in the gym. I just do. 99% of the time, it just triggers you back into a good state, you know, where you feel like anything's possible. You know, you can take on any challenge, you know. Anyway, I love it. So let me see. What goes through your mind in the first 60 seconds? Okay, I already answered that one. If you had to pick only one sauna or cold plunge, yeah, I would definitely do the sauna. Because it's just, I don't know, I just really like them, man. When the sauna was closed down for the, you know, COVID, man, I hated that time. I just hated it, man. I love that sauna for my brain as much as as my body, man. I love it both. Do you think the Vikings or Spartans used versions of this to harden themselves for battle? Supposedly the sauna comes from, right? That's from like Switzerland or someplace. I guess maybe that would be the Vikings. I don't know, but I don't know if they did, man. They should have. They're pretty tough already though, but I'm just telling you, if you can start your day or end your day, when I end my day with that sauna routine, I sleep so much better. The demons do not get me when I end the day with a sauna because I'm so tired. I lift weights, then I go in there and do the cold shower and then the hot, and then and then I go home, and I usually sleep solid on those nights. When I don't make it over to close out the day with the sauna and the cold shower, I don't, you know, sometimes the demons will get me in the middle of the night. I go, demons, I hate the demons. I think about all the terrible things that are, you know, problems that I could imagine, you know, although I'm doing way better at that now. I'm not imagining those demons as bad as I used to. But anyway, yeah, so I'm a huge fan for the mind and the body. I think the fountain of youth was the word that I was looking for. San Francisco Bay is the fountain of youth. People do not age that much down there. They stay about the same. They look really good, you know, most of the time. And so I highly recommend that. And we always go in the sauna afterwards too down there. Their sauna is not as hot as my other one I use, but we always go in there after a big swim, and it's like, it's a really happy place. That's all I can tell you, because you're going from cold and you're dragging your butt up those stairs at the south end, and you're hanging on the rail because you're barely making it. And then you get to sit down in that sauna, man, and it's like, wow, that's my happy place. Woo, woo, my happy place. So I highly recommend the hot, cold thing for the mind and the body. And definitely if you're going to swim, you know, in the bay or swim the English Channel, you got to get in there and do that cold for as long, you know, at least a couple months. Or, you know, same if you're going to the desert, you got to get in that sauna and get used to that heat before you go there too, unless you live in the desert. All right, I think we're getting ready to sign off. We're signing off from the Lunchbox Half Hour. We talked a little bit about cold plunges and hot saunas. I might have jumped around a little bit. Hopefully I didn't confuse you guys too much, but they're both really good for you. Keep doing them. Push yourself a little bit. Don't die. That's our safety talk. No dying, but push yourself a little bit so you get uncomfortable. Thank you very much. Woo woo. Lunch Pail Half Hour signing off. We'll be back on Thursday, 2 days from now at 3:30 for another lunch pail half hour. Woo woo. Thank you guys.